Everyone has hopes and dreams and visions of tomorrow. It seems as a year ago in September, the school administrators decided they wanted to increase the racial equity in the schools to keep minorities in the classroom. They gave out a possibility of educators to come up with enterprising ideas. I said that I would bring culturally diverse people into my classroom and have them share their stories with the world. The clock changed. It was March 1st. And as schools were on the inside, they went to the outside. But that didn't stop me. That didn't hold me back. I continued to interview people and ask them three very important questions. What is your name? What background do you have? What advice do you have to students on the pandemic, the riots, and the protests? I've chosen three distinguished individuals to share with you today. One of them is an educator. The second is a musician. And the third is a TEDx organizer. So first, let us get started with the very first person, an educator. You know, Jonathan Lightman was the head of the California community colleges from Northern to Southern California. And as he fulfilled that role, he was stricken by a very deadly disease. It was pancreatic cancer. Some called him a victor. Some called him the unlucky, others the tormented. What many people didn't know is Jonathan toiled each and every day as he was acting on behalf of many instructors, part-time and full-timers. His life was on the line. And when he finally had to stop in that role, he said, I know I made a difference. This entire book was held up because I wanted Jonathan's entry in the book. And I'm so glad that I waited, because when Jonathan chose to go ahead and write about this, he gave us three important messages. He said, the world does not revolve around us. It never has, and it never will. So that we need to take individual responsibility on what we're going to do on each and every day. Second, there's two ways of learning. There's institutional learning and there's real life learning. We learn from the books and we look from the walks of life. But he said the most important is where wisdom comes from. You see, we think sometimes the brightest, most intelligent people are the best dressed, but sometimes there's nothing there. And the people that are worse dressed, the ones we'd never give any credence to, are the most brilliant people in our times. And so in this pandemic, Jonathan said, as his life was on the line, to look at education and what it has to offer. Now we know what the educational standpoint is. Let's go to a musician. The musician is also a very good friend of mine. Her name is Songwriting Shane. We met on a thing that was called Arts for Peace. And Peace is one of Shane's middle names. You see, Shane was raised in a time when she was in education. She learned the importance of right from wrong. She learned what her school had taught her about the indivisible and justice for all. She remembers throughout her time that people cried for peace. They fought for peace. And so her message to those who are out there fighting is, if you're going to join the fight, do it with a message, do it with a thought. It's not a process to destruct, to conquer, but it's how we're going to rebuild and keep our world together. Thank you, Shane. Finally, my third person is a TEDx organizer. This isn't just any TEDx person. This person's name is Kat Heber. Kat Heber is a person who believes in first. She was the first one who was a cadet in the Air Force. She was the first aerial flyer that taught her the importance of the risk and the need to continuously fight for things. She also fought for our environment, to go ahead and sustain that environment, walked across America. She was also one of the first who came down to experience the coronavirus herself. She described it as if it was a Yahtzee board. You never knew, coming or leaving, what today would bring or what it might offer, what it might take away. But she said in this time of devastation and destruction, she took several things that she stopped doing. She took a moment to realize that there are over 400 million acres of the Amazon forest that was built, 400 acres that were burned here in the United States. And she said, in this time, I've stopped flying. I've canceled my driver's license, and I've begun to take a look at what our world has and what it needs to do. And so let me remind you, today we covered 3 people. We covered an educator, we covered a musician, and we covered a TEDx organizer. So when we say, what are you going to do in this world? How are you going to lead? Who's going to follow you? Remember, there's a book you can go to, A Message for Tomorrow's Leaders, 46 essays from different people from all around the world, sharing their hearts and their souls to keep our kids involved in education. Thank you.